Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Glad you could all join us today. Just before we start off with the main part of the webinar, a few bits and pieces ready for anyone who might be new to our sessions. Can see loads of people have found the chat area already, which you'll see on the side of your screen. So that's great. Please carry on introducing yourself on there. Use it to talk to each other obviously throughout the webinar. My name is Andy. I'm a project officer with Union Learn. My colleagues from Union Learn will be adding their thoughts, links and some other information and things in the chat throughout the session as well. And obviously feel free to share anything in the way of links, resources, experience yourselves too. If you've got any questions for our presenters today, you should see an ask a question button at the bottom of your screens. So you can use that to post up any questions. Feel free just to add those in and we'll answer as many as we can after the presentations later. My colleague Yusuf, he's running the technical side of things today. Hopefully we'll be problem free, but just rest assured if anything does crop up, then we'll try and get on top of that and sort that out as quickly as they happen. I think that's pretty much the housekeeping done for today. As you all know, the topic today is digital inclusion. Not a new issue, but the COVID pandemic has really put a spotlight on the difference digital inclusion can make to people's opportunities, the resources, the information, the connections that they can access and they can make. And it's an important issue for unions and union learning reps as well. Links not just to learning and skills, but to many other areas of our lives, whether it's our work, communications, our health, finances, our children's education, access to services and much more. Many learning reps have found that the lockdown has sparked people's interest in using digital as well, in ways perhaps they'd not done before, whether that's the kind of many and varied wonders of Zoom, or whether it's sparking interest in taking on new e-learning opportunities. But reps have also raised big concerns about people being left out or left behind as well. And both of those things were a real focus of discussion at the Supporting Learners events that we held in the autumn too. So we're really pleased today. We've been joined by Bryony Evans and Sarah May from the Good Things Foundation. So thank you both for joining us on today's webinar. They're going to share from their experiences and talk about the Foundation's work on digital inclusion, the learning and other resources available as well to help people improve their lives through digital, things like the Online Learning Centres network, Learn My Way and Make It Click and others. So Bryony's going to run through some slides and then we'll take some questions after that presentation. So I will hand over now and get underway. Thanks, Bryony.
No problem. So I'm Bryony from Good Things Foundation, here with my colleague Sarah, who's just joined as well. So what we're hoping to do this morning is just to talk a bit more about who we are, the sorts of things that we can offer in terms of support to organisations to help with digital inclusion. Just to give you some background, I've been working at Good Things Foundation for about 1.5 years on several different projects, and Sarah's joined recently after working with the NHS for a long time. And just from preparing and speaking with Andy and Yusuf, it's been really interesting to learn more about union learning and all the important work that you do. So I hope in this presentation that we'll cover some sort of research, some tools like the Online Centres network, and then we've got some online learning tools as well that may be of use. And please let us know if you have questions as we go along. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and you should see some slides. Okay, so the slides will just be about 20 minutes long, so it's not going to go on for too long by PowerPoint, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. We're also just interested to talk about experience of digital inclusion work, so even if you don't have a particular question, but you have an experience or a tip that you want to share, I think that could be really interesting to hear about as well at the end. So, who are Good Things Foundation? Who are we? We're a social change charity based in Sheffield. So Sarah and I are coming to you from actually a surprisingly sunny Sheffield today. About 75% of our work is based in the UK, but then we've also got a government contract in Australia and a pilot project in Kenya. And our ultimate aim is to try and help socially isolated people feel happier, healthier, or better off through digital. One way we do this is creating partnerships with government bodies, corporate and private sector organisations who share our vision and can help fund our work. And there's some examples on the screen of who we have some current partnerships with. And that's sort of really at the heart of our work. We also used to be known as UK Online Centres, so I'm not sure if any of you have come across us under that previous name. We then had a brief rebranding as Tinder Foundation until a notorious app came along and made that name unsustainable. There was a few awkward calls, I think, misunderstanding that we weren't that Tinder. So we've now rebranded to Good Things Foundation. So why do we do this? I've included this infographic as it gives a bit of a visual representation of the digital divide and some strategies to improve this. I note the writing is very small here. So in the next slide, I've picked out some interesting facts and statistics. So don't worry too much about zooming in or, straining your eyes. And we can send this around afterwards with the sources of this data as well. But one part of our work at Good Things Foundation is definitely conducting and pulling together research, making sure this is published and used in campaigns to try and influence change. And there's more research available on our website as well, which I can send a link to if anyone's interested in delving into it a bit more. So some of the facts I thought were the most interesting from the previous infographic would be these ones. And I have to say, before I joined Good Things Foundation, some of these would have surprised me. They may not surprise you from your line of work and sort of the communities that you work with. But I think it's just worth sort of reinforcing so that the scale of the sort of issue is understood. So 13.6 million workers have life skills in digital, but lack work skills. We may all know someone like this, or maybe be even this person ourselves. Sometimes people may be happy using Facebook, WhatsApp, things that can serve them well in their personal life, but that doesn't necessarily translate to skills for work. We found that 9 million people can't use the internet without help, and 7 million have no internet access at home. And we believe this impacts all aspects of people's life, including work, finances, and well-being, especially as in-person contact has had to reduce so significantly in the last year. Since working at Good Things Foundation on a personal level, I've just seen this reflected in all sorts of ways. Going right from the sort of top level, we're sort of working with ONS a little bit around the census that's coming up in March, as it's going to be the first digital first census, mainly online. And it really, I think these statistics really show the impact if people aren't included or given access to be able to do things like that. I think it even goes right down into small details in people's lives. We had a lot of calls when I started at Good Things Foundation because a council had moved all of their bin services online, so people couldn't make any changes or do any arrangements without going online. We called it Bingate because we got a lot of calls about that, but I just think it shows that even down into the smallest details, digital skills are now necessary to navigate everyday life. One more example is actually our CEO just put out an update about digital skills in the workplace. And in that, she found that 82% of jobs now require digital skills. Even those that don't specifically require digital skills, maybe more manual jobs, it's been found that those workers who have better digital skills tend to earn around £2,160 more a year than those with lower digital skills in the same roles. Just another reason why it's so important. But to end this slide on a positive note, we can see things are changing. So we've got 1.2 million increase in basic device and internet abilities since 2019. So I mentioned the Online Centres network before. So this is just a free membership network that we look after. It's made up of thousands of different organisations across the UK who are committed in one way or another to helping people learn digital skills or supporting them to do so. So we definitely accept any and all types of organisations into this network. It could be libraries, community centres. We have even got a fish and chip shop that has a training room upstairs that helps people I guess, gets them in with fish and chips and then teaches digital skills as well. It could be really large organizations like Union Learn as well, or local branches of national organizations, even right down to computer clubs run by volunteers, for example. On the Online Centres Network site, we've actually got a map. So when an organisation signs up, they can choose if they want to be shown on this map. It's quite useful for finding other local organisations in the area to contact in terms of working together, signposting, and if they're on there, at least that they have this aim of supporting with digital inclusion in common. So I don't think we could talk about digital inclusion this year without mentioning COVID-19. It's obviously had a huge impact on the way organisations support people. And it meant that a lot of the organisations who have signed up to be part of that network typically delivered face-to-face support and had to quickly start with remote delivery. So we started off last March by having lots of conversations with those in our network, and it became really obvious a lot of them were unsure about supporting people remotely with digital skills. We organised some virtual meetups back in March 2020. There was a lot of uncertainty at that time, so these sessions could be quite emotional and people shared quite a lot, but we think it was useful for organisations to be able to share experiences and challenges and solutions. It was helpful for us to be able to listen and understand what we could potentially do to help as well. We've got some new resources to help around things like that. So we've got a page on the Online Centres Network site all about remote delivery resources. Anyone can go on there and have a look. You don't have to sign up for anything at all. So feel free to have a browse. One thing that's on there as well is a series of how-to guides. So we spoke to some organisations who had a really good idea about supporting people remotely with digital inclusion, and they wanted to share that with other people. So we worked with them to produce these guides. They're around quite a big variety of different aspects. So it goes from setting up a remote cooking class, a virtual coffee morning, or running employability sessions, for example. I've just pulled out some top tips from these guides, which I thought were interesting. So one centre in Stockport, starting point, they thought it was important to make things personal, even when it's remote. So it's a bit more, I guess, less distant, and to share fears and challenges because we're all learning these things together. They also made the point of listening to what people want rather than going with necessarily the most high-tech or newest technology, which I thought was very wise. It's, I guess, about meeting people where they're happy with at that moment, whether that's WhatsApp or YouTube, something that they already feel comfortable with, and going from there. And we've got a nice tip from Leeds Libraries about running a virtual coffee morning. So finishing on a high note, I think, was a good advice, but I'm not sure about this sing along that they mentioned. I think that's not going to be happening today, for example. So the other thing I just wanted to mention was training. So we have got all sorts of different training webinars, which we just put on the Online Centres Network as well. So they're based on feedback really from the network of organisations about what would be most useful. So the content changes from time to time, and definitely in the last year. I think previously it was more things like bid writing, marketing, and so on. And in the last year, we've been getting experts in to talk more about remote delivery, mental health, resilience, and so on as well. You're very welcome to go on. This is another thing that you can just have a browse of and see if there's anything that would be of interest there. You can watch any of those webinars back, even without signing up. And you can also sign up for the upcoming ones. We've got quite a lot of webinars planned over the next few weeks. So yeah, I'm happy to share information about those as well. Okay. Another thing that we do is creating online learning tools to help individuals learn new digital skills. So our original sort of our core one, I suppose, is Learn My Way. Not sure if anyone's come across this in the past, but it's just a free-to-use online learning platform. It's got over 30 courses now to help people learn digital skills, and it goes right from very beginner level. So there's ones about using a keyboard for the first time, using a touch screen. And then it also includes courses which are more about particular subjects. Could be applying for universal credit online, or finding your local GP, particular tasks really. What I like about Learn My Way is it's very interactive. It almost mirrors the real sites that people are going to be going on, but it's a safe environment to practice in. So if you click on the wrong thing, it doesn't matter. It will just give you a nudge to say maybe you could try again, rather than in the real world potentially signing up for something that you don't want to. It's also being always updated based on the requirements and the needs of the online centres network. So we've added new courses recently about video calling and staying in touch with family and so on as well. I can just actually show what it looks like in real life, just in case you want to have a look. I'll just exit this presentation and give you a quick tour. So yeah, this is just free to use for anyone, and it always will be. We've got the subjects area here, so it's split into different sections. So we've got some of the starting to use a computer ones here. It's got a search function. So for example, if I wanted to find out about filling in a form online, search for forms. Luckily, there is one called using online forms. So I'll go on there. I'm going to go straight to filling in your details, and I'll show you just one example of an activity. So all of the resources on here, they will take you through some information, and then you have a chance to practice. So here it's asking me as Barbara to register. If I click on the wrong thing, it actually tells me that's not quite it. Maybe you could try again. If I do, it takes me through to the next page, and it will just take you through all of the steps like that, so people can practice without being afraid of making a mistake, really. It also gives the chance to have certificates as well. So, and it saves, if someone signs up for a free account, it saves their learning progress so they can see their own progress through all of the different courses. I'll just show you one more aspect as well. So if, as an organisation, you wanted to sign up as part of the Online Centres network, there's also the facility to monitor the learning that people do while being supported by your organisation. So in the learner management section, it will just show me an example of our head office data. But if people sign up, you can give them a unique number when they sign up, and it links their account to yours. You then get to see, so this is actually my big boss's sample account. So I'm going to click on hers and see how much learning she's done. She has done very poorly. She's not started, but if she had, it would show the percentage complete for all of these different modules. But you can also get a general overview. So there's a statistics section, which can be quite useful for showing impact on a bigger scale. So if I wanted to see how many people have completed a course while being supported by us, it shows you a nice graph here, and you can change the date range and so on. Okay. We've actually got a brand new resource as well. I say brand new, maybe I'm behind the times. I think it's actually been in existence for a year now. It's called Make It Click. So I think Learn My Way is a bit more basic level digital skills. Make It Click has been designed for people who have some existing digital skills that they want to improve on them, and it has a particular theme around skills for work. It's different to Learn My Way in that it is not created by our learning team specifically, all of the content. It's more of a directory of different resources from around the web that people can use. It's also free to use and always will be. And you actually don't need to sign up for an account unless you want to. So feel free to go and have a look and just see if it would be of use. I can give you a very short tour of that as well in a second. It gives you the chance to sort of make playlists of your resources you want to go through, or suggested playlists as well. So here is the main screen for Make It Click. And if we go to subjects, we can see all of the different areas here. This one is actually even updated even more frequently than Learn My Way. So we've been able to be quite responsive. So when coronavirus first started and people were working from home, this section was added with useful resources. So anyone can go through. If you think you might want to do this one, you can either go straight to it or you can add it to your list. You then have the My Playlist option where you can go and see all of the ones that you've shown an interest in and work through them. Or if you wanted to, you can go to our suggested playlists here. So we've got one that's been brought together by our team thinking if someone was applying for a job, which skills that are shown on here would be the most useful. So I think we've talked quite a bit about the Online Centres Network already, but just as a summary, that's it. So, you know, there's support and advice on using these tools, some training, and we run funded projects and so on that I'll talk a bit more about in a minute as well. But I just wanted to say, if anyone ever wanted to get in touch, we have a very friendly network team. I may be biased because I'm part of it, but we're always happy to be on the other end of a phone if someone needs information about what they can get involved in at that time or needs support, then we're there. One thing I wanted to mention is the Everyone Connected project, which is something that is definitely possible to get involved in future as well. So we noticed as soon as the sort of pandemic hit, the demand and need for devices and connectivity was really apparent. I think a lot of people who would have traditionally gone to maybe their local library or got local support to use the internet when they're not able to do so. So we've got this initiative which is aiming to help as many of those millions of households with no internet access as possible. We've been working with funders to develop different projects under this Everyone Connected umbrella. So we've been asking sort of big organisations and so on, and our funders for donations of devices or funding for us to purchase them. We've then been working with the Online Centres Network to distribute those to people in their communities who are most in need, and also so that they can provide support following those donations. Because we think it's very important that someone isn't just sort of given the equipment and left to figure it out for themselves. I think in order to be able to use it safely and to in a way that suits them best, then those follow-up meetings and support and so on would be needed. So this was really brought in as sort of an emergency response, but we're really pleased with how it's worked so far. There's thousands of devices that have gone out to people who need them. So we're working at the moment to try and move it into more of a long-term project. So if that's something that might be of interest to you or to anyone that you work with or organisations that you know, then I'd recommend keeping an eye out on the website. At the moment, we've just had some new funding in, which is specifically around families. So it's from Children in Need, and it's about delivering almost 2,000 devices to disadvantaged families. So that will be the next piece of work that's happening, but we're hoping that there'll be future developments with this project as well. So I won't go through all these quotes because they're a bit long, but I just wanted to mention, I think it's been a highlight of all of our years anyway at Good Things Foundation is reading some of the stories and the case studies that have come about from Everyone Connected. And that's both from organisations and individuals. So Caring Together received some devices, and it was just interesting to hear about the benefit they'd had and how they could help people do online GP consultations and get the latest advice around medical care and so on. On an individual level, we've got Mabel, whose picture is there on the right, who until fairly recently had never used the internet and was just able to start keeping in touch with her daughter in Australia, which I think probably resonates with all of us, because I know for me at least, being able to stay in touch with family during social distancing and times we've not been able to meet up has been really important. So other thing we do is campaigns. I won't talk too much about it, but we just have various campaigns just aiming to get the word out about digital inclusion as much as possible. So an annual one we do is Get Online Week, where we encourage people to run events, even virtual events last year, just to help spread the word as much as possible. And we have a current campaign called To Fix the Digital Divide as well, which you're very welcome to support on Twitter. I did mention funding, so we have some various funding projects as well. They mainly revolve around being grants that go out to support a certain number of people to learn digital skills, usually using Learn My Way or Make It Click. So this is an example of one funded project. We were funded by google.org to reach 50,000 people who have some digital skills but want to build on them for work. And that's involved some independent learners, but 34,000 learners being supported by grant-funded online centres. So we are always looking for more opportunities to do things like this. And on our online centres network, there's a funding section so you can see the latest opportunities that are open to get involved in. We've got a video if you just want to hear more from other organisations. I'm not going to play it now, but I'll send the link around. So if anyone wants to hear a bit more, not just from us, but from other organisations about digital inclusion and so on, that opportunity is there. So just a quick summary, because I think we talked about lots of different terms. I've just put this slide on here just to show the links to these tools, Learn My Way and Make It Click, the Online Centres Network and Twitter. So if you just want to sort of stay in touch, Twitter is a good place to do it. You can find us at Good Things FDN, or you can also go onto the Online Centres Network site and sign up for newsletters. There's just an example tweet on the right, which is part of our Fix the Digital Divide campaign. So as you can see, we're targeting Rishi Sunak by name and just trying to really get the word out and ask for more importance really to be given to digital inclusion in future. So feel free to get involved. That's it from me in terms of my slides and so on. So we've got plenty of time for questions now if you wanted to ask any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. A great overview there. Kind of really interesting as well to see all those different areas of work that you're involved in, as well as the kind of campaigns and things that you mentioned there too at the end as well. I'm sort of trying to keep half an eye on the chat as well as we went through. I did see lots of endorsements of things like Learn My Way as well. Several people mentioned they'd found those useful in those work, which is good to hear. Someone asked when Get Online Week was, which I thought might be, it's usually in October sometime, isn't it? But I don't know if the dates have been confirmed for this year or.
Good point. I don't think they have yet, but it's normally, I think, around the 20th of October. But yes, I'm sure they will be soon, actually, because normally when they finish one online week, they get planning the next one. So I'm sure there'll be some news about that soon. Yeah, but
it'll be October as sometimes. Keep an eye on the web. Yeah, great, thank you. I'm just going to kind of look through some of the questions we've had in this morning. Just while I'm kind of looking those through, you mentioned the playlists feature on Make It Click. It's one of the things I quite like. And you told us a little bit about it, but are there going to be more of those to come? I think there's 3 or 4 on there at the moment. Do you know if there are ideas for new areas in that one?
I believe so. So that the good thing about Make It Click is it is quite flexible and it's been developed quite a lot during its short lifespan. So those playlists kind of came from feedback about what people were looking for. So I think there's definitely potential for more to be developed, and we're always interested in hearing more about what people would be looking for. There's also, so you can let us know sort of by sending us an email. There's also a suggest a resource feature on Make It Click, which is just a link on the site itself. So if there's an area that you feel isn't covered or you want to make a suggestion, you can also do it that way. Right.
Thanks very much. Just scanning through some of the questions to see what we've got. Okay.
I just saw the question from Ray about home internet packages, which is a very interesting one, I think. So in terms of getting people devices, that was definitely considered as to be the second half of the issue. So all of the devices were provided with a Wi-Fi dongle or a SIM card to make sure that they were ready to use and that they wouldn't rely on people, even if it was a smartphone, it wouldn't rely on people having to top it up. So we made sure with our funders that they weren't just, that we made it known to them that both aspects would be needed. So far, everything that's gone out has been set up ready to use. But I agree, it could be a wider question to think about in future as well, about how that's sustainably managed.
Yeah, thanks, Ray, for that question. I'll look at the one there from Gillian. So hopefully we'd cover this, but do we have any case law to make the argument where an employer has gone to digital communication, but 30% of the workforce don't have ready access to PCs? I don't know if that's something maybe a bit outside your kind of direct area, but I mean, maybe if you can, if there's anything you are aware of around experience of that, feel free to touch on. But maybe just more widely, I mean, is there a role employers could play in improving digital inclusion? If it's not possible to kind of get into the specifics, maybe of Gillian's question.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, it's not something that my exact area of expertise around the law around that, but I would be interested to know as well. I would say, so I was actually having a look about some research that's been done recently, which our CEO shared in an update. And it does back that up, really. So recently they found, due to a survey that went out recently to 500 employers, it came back saying 60% said digital skills ability was really important in their decision about which employees to retain, which I did find very interesting because it's obviously a high number. And even though they cited that as vital, fewer than 2 in 5 thought that the employers bore responsibility for keeping their employees' digital skills up to date. Most instead thought it was, I think 38% thought it was the responsibility of the employees themselves, and others thought it would be the responsibility of the government. So I think obviously there is a bit of an issue there where it's such an important matter, but maybe the employer doesn't feel that they should be taking responsibility for it. And I think from our point of view, it's just definitely something that should be prioritised, and time and resource given to help people train and increase their skills while at work. I think some employers maybe had the barrier of thinking that they didn't have funding to be able to do that, or it would be too expensive. So I would encourage employers to be looking at free options that are available, free learning tools, and not assuming that it would be outside of the bounds of possibility.
Yeah, and union learning reps will obviously be playing a role with their employers, trying to press them to give that support as well. With picking up as well, just a little bit from the chat around the live captions as well, which we've not had today, unfortunately. So yeah, apologies for that, and we'll definitely pick that up after the event as well. I think my colleagues in the team have picked up some things in the chat and collected contacts as well. So we will kind of take that forward as well, and liaise with the people who've kind of raised that too. So yeah, thank you for flagging that up for us today as well. Slides, will they be available? Yes, so we've already answered that one as well. The PDF for the Digital Nation graphic, we can circulate, I think, that with the links as well. One of the Union Learn tools that we have is something called the Union Learn climbing frame, and we do actually have the PDF within that climbing frame as well. So if anyone logs on to that resource and goes to the digital skills section, you can find it there as well. But the easiest thing, Rich, is probably for us to send that round as another link. Are you working in co-production with deaf and disabled people's organisations? Is a question there from Anne. Is that something you would be able to tell us a bit more about, Bryony?
Yes, so I can go away and find out more about this as well if needs be. But I know that there's a new project to look at Learn My Way, and Learn My Way 2.0 is going to be the next step. And that's something where accessibility is going to play a big role. And we'll definitely be looking to work with organisations who have experience of that to input into what is going to be required to make it even more accessible, and to test it as well. So it will get plenty of testing and feedback before it goes live. So definitely a priority for this year.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely as well. I'd just add to that, as part of the COVID response survey that Good Things Foundation took part in and asked for feedback from our centres. One of that was around sort of like the use of BSL and using, the difficulties that people were facing with the remote learning. In terms of if they had, if there was hard of hearing, or they had, any disabilities or anything like that. So part of the response surveys highlighted, the need to look at, being more inclusive with, different methods and different styles of learning. So, everybody can be included.
Right, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, and it's been highlighted to us today as well, for us also. Question there from Jenny as well. How does someone make contact with a community partner for devices? Do they come through? You, or are there other routes?
Yeah, so is that if someone is interested in sort of getting involved to distribute devices to people in their community? I would take that to be, but let me know if not. Yes, there is. So probably the best thing to do in the first instance would just be to send an email to the general email address, which is just hello@goodthingsfoundation.org. And then we can speak to that team and just find out the latest update and the best way to get involved.
Okay, thank you. Again, I think, we'll find your contact details on the Good Things website. If anyone didn't get to note down that email address there, just scanning through, see if there's any others. While I'm doing that, you touched a bit on some of the kind of case studies and experience there. Have you had any sort of particular favourite stories of ways that your networks responded to COVID, other than the ones that you kind of with Maple that you looked at on the slides?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been very impressive and humbling to hear about what has been happening and the ideas that people have had, even in the face of such adversity. I think, first of all, I'd just say, in general, the approach of flexibility, so meeting people digitally where they're comfortable and then going with them on that sort of journey, has been quite impressive. There's also been some very creative initiatives. So there's a centre called Being Woman in Northumberland who received a sort of a COVID response grant, and they used it to create an app which could help. So they were also running a food bank and coordinating food packages going out to people. So they kind of combined that with digital skills and set up a special app, which is also helping people learn digital skills while. So this was just one option that people could use. It wasn't the only one. It was just to help encourage them to learn this new skill at the same time, and also then a way of them staying in touch and telling them about future opportunities as well. So for me, it's that sort of creativity of thinking is quite impressive.
Yeah.
Do you have anything more?
Share one? Sorry, Bryony. If I could just share one recently that really sort of like resonated with myself and a lot of centre users. One of our centres came up with the idea of actually delivering remotely. So they would deliver a Make It Click session or a Learn My Way session. So they'd go through the remote delivery, and it could be that they'd deliver it to a family group. So instead of just delivering it to sort of like individuals, so if you had people, for example, a family that might have had, might be hard of hearing, English might be the second language, but they've got one that's maybe more skilled in sort of like the digital processes, so that they would be able to then support the rest of the family. So it was like a family event as such. So it brought the whole family together so they could support each other to do that. So obviously, if the tutor was having difficulty in getting things across, or people didn't understand, then the person with the more enhanced digital skills could then support the family unit. So it was like very much bringing people together.
Yeah, that really seems to kind of widen out just beyond, if you like, the focus on the digital learning. It changes it into something kind of more than that, doesn't it? Those kind of examples take it a bit wider and make things maybe a bit more sustainable as well, in the longer term too. It's kind of great to hear, ideas of what's worked and being able to share things that people have found useful and successful as well, to give people those ideas and maybe things that might work in their situations too. And we kind of said before, if anyone's got anything that they want to post in the chat that they've either worked on or developed, then that's great. Part of the reason for having these events is to kind of share things across the connections that we can make, really. I think there's someone's just come in with a last question. Mark's question there. Want to double check, is the offer available UK wide or is it restricted to England?
Yeah, so most projects that we do are UK wide. So all of the free tools are available UK wide, and you could use them anywhere, really. Projects tend to be UK wide as well. There's just a couple of exceptions. For example, the census project that we're doing is England and Wales, but that's just because the census is run separately in Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Right. Okay.
But it will be clear on each project page exactly which area it's for.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, and obviously, as you say, with all the online resources, you can access them from anywhere, can't you? I'm guessing worldwide.
Yeah, we have a map. I've seen a map before of just showing where people are logging in for country-wise, and you get a few surprises as well. Like, we haven't really shared Learn My Way with anyone in Indonesia, but somehow someone's found it once upon a time. So it's interesting to see.
Yeah, I've seen the same with our Union Learn site. You can get some surprising places where you see people have viewed our materials from, or viewed our resources from. Okay, well, thank you again very much for picking up all of those questions, and again for the presentation today. We're currently got a few minutes left, so we're not kind of rushing to the end, so there is still time if anyone wants to post anything else. Actually, I've just spotted one at the top there. Vicky's one, I think we've probably touched a little bit on that during it, but any other thoughts on how best we engage with those who are digitally excluded? If you want to add anything to what you've already said, which I know you touched on this already, and then if either of you maybe have got any final thoughts or comments or points you'd like to make before we wrap up, then great to hear those now as well, if that's okay.
Sure. So in terms of engaging with people who are digitally excluded, I think we've just heard of a wide variety of different ways that different organisations have been trying to do this, especially during COVID times. I guess it's the catch-22 of not being able to see people face to face. Therefore, people who are not online, how do you reach them?
Yeah.
I think I've heard lots of stories about collaboration with different services, especially food banks and so on as well. And so I guess that's a way of finding the people who might need the help at a place where they will be going to, or they will be in contact with, and just letting people know that the offer is there and how to reach out. There's also an interesting guide on our site about moving from in-person support to digital support, or phone support to digital support, and just some tips perhaps for how to sort of gently encourage someone to move online.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of organisations did report that, even just starting with a phone call sometimes was the first thing that they did. Do you have anything to add, Sarah, to that?
I don't think there's anything to add. I think you've covered that really well. I mean, like I said, the centres that I've been, that I've been working more closely with, as Bryony said, I'm still quite new to sort of like Good Things Foundation. The innovative ways that they've found to sort of like engage with their learners, like I explained about the centre more recently. You've got some that are doing it as a social coffee event. So some of the sessions that we do for somebody that has limited digital skills, some of the centres that I've dealt with are actually dealing with Zoom as their very first session, to get them confident in using the session, so that then they, once the learners are able to sort of like use that confidently, then they can move on to actually learning the digital skills sort of thing, but using it as like a social coffee morning, sort of like a more relaxed environment.
I think that's interesting what Catherine's just posted as well about the BBC and broadcasting. I think if we could do it with them, then I think that would be an amazing idea. And it's a fantastic point. I think the closest thing so far is that some organisations work with community radio stations as well to get the message out that way. But yeah, I'm going to take that idea back and suggest it to the managers and see what the outcome is. Who knows?
It's a really good one, that.
Great. That's a great one to hear then. Yeah, thank you for that. Was that from Catherine? Yeah, thanks, Catherine. And I think, yeah, so Richard's posted some a link to some example of some work in Wales as well there as well. So if people want to check out that too. And yes, it's the kind of variety, I suppose, and the range of different things that are being explored to kind of try to take this forward in whatever different ways to meet the needs of, different groups, different people as well. So it's really great to hear of all the different, kind of different examples there that you've been able to touch on. Any final thoughts? Otherwise, I'll.
Yeah. So, well, I can send out the slides afterwards. Shall I send them to you, Andy, and then people can access them?
Yeah, brilliant.
And it's just been really great to read all of the comments in the chat panel as well. A combination of sort of reflections and questions, and also some suggestions, which is really useful for me to see as well, and interesting ideas for going forward. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening and for engaging.
Thank you.
Okay, well, and a big thank you as well, Bryony and Sarah. Thanks so much for your time this morning and joining us today. As you said as well, thanks to everyone who's joined the webinar and posted their question and got involved today as well. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Really hope you found it a useful session on what is such a kind of important issue as well for the times we're in, perhaps especially as well. As I think we've picked up most of these things, but just to kind of stress as well, we'll get a recording of the webinar onto the YouTube, our YouTube channel as well. We'll get the presentation and the links and make those available too as well. So hopefully you'll have everything that's been shared today for yourselves, but you can get in touch with Union Learn or with Good Things Foundation as well with any kind of further questions, anything else you want to kind of pick up to, and our websites as well. So please do use those resources too. So just to close really by saying our next event is on Wednesday morning next week. It's a chance to take a live tour of our new Create Your Own Future tool. It's a career and learning development tool we've recently launched. My colleague Jane Warwick is going to deliver that session, and she'd love to see you join that session too. So please, if you can make it, so that's next Wednesday. Just really a final thanks again for today. Take care and goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.